Hey everybody, this is Adam Kidd with TotallyBlended.com, and I'm presenting my first screencast for the 25-cent movie project. And we're just going to walk through how things got done. And for some of you, this is going to be like second hat. This is stuff you don't even breathe without doing. And for some of you, this is going to be very, very new. So, I think it's worth doing just enough. The first thing we're going to talk about today is organizing your files. Now, as you see, I already have a little bit of a mess floating around there. And what I did was I picked a spot on my home server and made it a folder just called Adam Server. And that's where I go to whenever I want to access any of my stuff on any number of computers that I use in my house. One of the reasons this is a good thing is because I can access it straight on the server. My network's fast enough that I'm okay for it. If you're just starting up and you've never done this before, you could put this somewhere simple as a thumb drive, or you can put it on the desktop of your computer. It's really just got to be a place where you can find your stuff. And what I like to do usually is create two folders right away. One called Ideas and one called Junk Drawer. And Ideas is a place where I usually just drop in little notes here and there. Just if I had an idea, I quickly get it down. And so that way, if I forget about it, later on I can sift through the idea drawer, put stuff in. I can say, hey, that was a good idea. I might do that. I got that idea from Woody Allen. I guess he got the idea for one of his movies. He wrote it on a matchbook, lost it in his couch cushions, and then found it 20 years later. So I've been doing that ever since, and it has paid off. I also keep a junk drawer, and that's usually a place where you download so much stuff off the internet when you're trying to get ideas. You're trying to get, you want to make a bad guy, so you look up bad guys and download a whole bunch of pictures, and you think, oh, I'm going to borrow that bad guy's ears or that guy's nose. You got to put all that stuff somewhere, and the junk drawer is just a nice place to keep it out of sight. Then what I'm going to do is for each project that I complete, I'm going to create a folder. So when we made D is for blank, 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 I originally called it D is for dog, and that's the folder that we created. When you go in, you're going to create a pre-production folder and a production folder. Pre-production is where you're going to do anything that takes place before you get into your editing program, before you get into your 3D program, or you're going to use your camera. So I pretty much started the 50-cent movie with one picture, and this was in my sketchbook. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this here. And it's kind of hard to see because it's upside down. Let's see if there's any way to rotate that. Rotation, rotate right, view, rotation, rotate right. Oh, by the way, I'm working with Ubuntu Studio, and anything that I'm doing here is accessible in Windows and Mac. I found that if I was going to use free software, I may as well do everything free, and that includes an open source software. So I quickly sketched this out on a piece of paper, and the idea was to do a kids Sesame Street type word game. D as in dog, D as in Danny, and then D as in dinosaur. So then I quickly drew out kind of what I saw my guys looking like. That's Danny. He eventually got longer legs. That's the dog. Eventually I did him in better detail. And then my dinosaur was originally just a head. I later added on a body and some arms. I also put in little diagrams on how I want things to move around a little bit. So I wrote that I wanted his head to move, and I wanted his tail to move, and his hand and his jaw. And I just worked from there. So the next place that you want to keep your eye on is your pre-production folder is designs. Now, I didn't have sets. I just did character designs. and I created 3 characters. And we're going to go into that in the next tutorial. Basically what I did was I created breakaway sheets. So these are how the character should come apart when I'm throwing them into a program. And let's see here. That's what he looks like normally. And that's all done with vector graphics, and we'll get into that later. I mean, that's actually got a whole tutorial dedicated just to it. So once you create a spot, at least just reference images for each of your characters. And you're pretty much confident you're ready to go. Then you got to set up your production folder. And what we're going to do is, normally you'd create a folder that says script or screenplay. And frankly, I didn't use one. I just worked off of my my scan. You're going to want a folder dedicated to characters, and this is where you're going to put your finished character designs. A place for dialogue, and this is where you're going to put lines that are said in the movie. So this was an audio that my daughter Thelma did. Let's see here if it works. Yeah, like she did the roar of the dinosaur. She's 2 years old, so there's my audio, and there's my son's dog impressions, and these were all. This is Invincible.
This is the true story. This is the.
This was all done with a.
Woof woof woof.
Daddy! Woof,
Go. Go.
So I shot that with an iPhone, and then later emailed the video to myself. You can take it right off the drive there. Fonts, if I'm looking on the internet and I want to use fonts for my film, which I did, then I'm going to put those in there. If I'm using any music, I'm going to put it in there. And then I also included the credit for the movie, which you can see in the final product. Renders folder, this is where if you're doing any reference images or anything like that, they all go in there. And then your scenes are going to go in the scenes folder. And you'll see later on when we get in there, all these projects are all neatly labeled. Their scenes are labeled. And then when you go in later in the editing program, which I used was Blender, and again, whole tutorial dedicated to that, you'll see how all this stuff comes together. But proper file organization helps make things move a lot smoother. It's totally worth it to take the time to put that together, because what you can do is you can copy that file folder and then paste it again, and then just delete all the stuff that's inside of it except for the folders, and you have another like a second reference set up for another project. So I just saved time on my $25 project, because at 50 cents I planned it out early enough. So that's the first video. Later on, we're going to go into a bit of Inkscape and show you how to make your first character. And then I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks on how to cheat it into Blender. And that even if you're relatively experienced with Blender, that one might be worth the look. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.